Well, I'm really excited to talk about this new book that's coming out, Educating All God's Children. Public education is something that's deeply personal for me. I grew up as a kid in Detroit and went to a public high school. And unlike most of my peers, I ended up graduating from high school and going on to college. Part of the reason was that I went to a very competitive high school that you had to take a test to get in, and we had very high expectations for what happened at the school. Everyone assumed from day one that we would go to college. It was very different than the high school that I would have gone to had I not gotten accepted to this other school, which was our neighborhood high school, and it had, I would say, pretty low expectations for all the kids that went there. I had friends that said they'd never heard anyone talk to them about college the entire 4 years they were there. And so not surprisingly, about half of those kids ended up dropping out before they got a high school diploma, and very few, perhaps about 1 in 10, ended up going on to college. That was a significant motivation for me to go on and to actually teach public school myself in Compton, California. During college, my faith became very important to me as a Christian, and so I was looking for ways to put that in action. That, combined with my experiences as a kid in Detroit, led me to go teach in Compton, California. And I found kids who were very far behind academically, incredibly smart and talented, but had fallen through the cracks essentially. And so as I looked at my group of fifth graders and saw that many of them were doing reading and math at the level of a first or second grader, I had to figure out how to get them by the end of the year at a much higher level. And so we set very high expectations, invested their parents and families, brought in a lot of other people in the community to help us, and at the end of the year, I was so happy to see that kids who couldn't read at the beginning of the year were reading chapter books by the end of the year. On the average, they had gained about 2.5 grade levels worth of math and reading scores and academics in that year. And so I left that experience thinking, gosh, if that could happen in one class, how can we see this happen around the country? And that's what's really motivated me for the last about 15 years to focus on this issue. As I said, when I became a Christian, I started to look at this issue slightly differently. And I think as Christians and people of faith, this really is a justice issue. It's a moral issue where we're seeing right now essentially 2 different school systems. And some kids are getting a great education in public schools. Poor and largely minority children, many of them are not. And I think it's imperative upon us to not sort of sit by and let this happen, but how can we get engaged? How can we help every child really tap into their God-given potential, regardless of what school they attend?